Okay, I'm Roxy. I am the developer community manager at torque.dev. It is a job matching platform that is just based in the community. We have such a great and fun community. Bob over here is an active member, and we just met in real life, which was awesome. I also am the creator of a progressive web app for a niche part of the medical community. Speaking of communities, thank you so much to the organizers of Stir Trek for allowing me to be here today. Oh no, my mouse isn't working, y'all. I'm sorry, one second. I rely heavily on my notes. And I am unable to get my mouse to them. So I'm going to go through 6 steps, which I think was in the description, but some of them may seem obvious. I just hope that they kind of motivate you along with some stories. I'm going to share some personal stuff at the end. I'm going to go through the progressive web app first. If I can get my mouse going. I'm sorry, y'all, I don't know why. Okay, so this may seem obvious, but even as a former math teacher, I didn't realize that problem solving was my modus operandi. Every time I felt motivated to build something, it ended up being a solution. Maybe you notice a problem in your own life. Maybe you have, or you notice a problem elsewhere. Unfortunately for us, but maybe fortunately for you, there are many problems in the world. So the first step is to just find one and try to find a solution for it. And I'm just going to try. Okay, got it, y'all. Okay, so this is what I built when I knew just enough JavaScript and had a problem that couldn't wait. It was a very specific calculator for the GTube community. I'll go into that in a minute. It can be used to calculate one of 3 pieces of data required in order to set up the nutrition pump with formula. I'm sorry if that's all a foreign language. I will get to that in a second. So the foundation of this web app was 3 formulas. You see the 3 inputs. So I told you I'm a former math teacher. My husband is currently a math teacher, which, no pressure at all for our children. So this stuff is sort of top of mind. And I figured it was simple enough. People knew it. They didn't need our help. They didn't need my help. This was silly. Side note. Please don't tell yourself you suck at math. Please do not let your children say it out loud, say it in their head. Anyone around you, don't let them say that. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it really hurts the teachers trying to show them that they don't suck at math. And my mouse is not working again. So anyway, this is how some people think of math. Okay, so I was talking about the GTube community. I was talking about who this app is helping. So quick little science lesson. GTube is short for gastronomy tube. Some people cannot eat at all by mouth. Some people just need the extra calories. So the Mickey or the G button is the actual part that you see on the belly. And the GTube technically is the part that connects from the button to the pump, and you put the formula in the pump or in the bag, and then it goes through the pump. So my app is figuring out the math that you need to input into the pump, if that makes sense. So the cool thing about my web app, it was vanilla, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but people were using it. Last year I tracked 4,000 users and 38,000 events. That blue line, those are what I'm most proud of. Those are the organic searches. People were looking for a solution and they used mine. In this particular month of 1,436 visits, 1,286 were from organic searches. I don't know if it's my math side or like I used to be a blogger, and so I just would track all this data and just love looking at it. People who were searching for a solution to their problem, for their math problem when it came to their own pump or G-tube, it was just really awesome that they clicked on mine and used it. A few months ago, when I was deep in the job hunt, hit the trough of sorrow a couple times, maybe more than a couple times, I received this message on Instagram. Hey, I'm sorry if this catches you off guard. I don't mean anything by it, but extreme excitement. Are you responsible for creating this gem? Well, never mind, it won't let me attach a photo, but it is the feeding rate calculator. I found it on Google, and I just want to say that it is genius. Excuse me. But it has been needed for so long. I'm on my second G-tube babe, and having to not manually calculate the rate is such a time-saving blessing. It's definitely saved to my home screen as a bookmark, and now I will definitely be sharing it with everyone that I know. So this was a message that I got on Instagram just out of the blue. Rookie mistake, I didn't have any contact information within the app itself. So the fact that they went out looking to thank me for the app was just the most incredible motivation. I printed this out and have it, on my desk in my office, because I am grateful for this message. I was, feeling unmotivated and when you're working on something and you don't think anybody sees it, or that they're actually using it, this was great. So this was I created this solution. I thought it was just for myself. Maybe I would share it with the nurses, which I'll get to in a minute. But it wasn't fancy. I was still teaching myself at the time, trying to switch from public education to tech. But the successful outcome of a project that helped others, despite being so vanilla, so new, it was enough to stay motivated, to stay on the path. Okay. So, okay, I'm trying to get my mouse back, y'all. This is it. This is the entire app minus some styling. It's 71 lines of JavaScript, but it worked. It got me all those views. People used it. Seriously, where's my mouse? I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know. And I don't usually walk around, and I couldn't anyway because I rolled my ankle. I know, walking over here took me forever. But I'm sorry, y'all. I don't even know where my mouse is now. Okay. So, I keep looking at the wrong screen. So this is 71 lines of JavaScript, and like I said, it got me the views that really motivated me, that kept me going. And I'm going to show you what's actually happening here, because this code is how most of us learn to build things. Okay. So I had 3 input fields that you saw earlier: milliliters, hours, and milliliters per hour, or the feed rate. So if a dietitian recommends 55 milliliters an hour for a night feed, And we figure there's only about 6 hours left in the feeding window that night in order for the person to have time to digest before breakfast. The user inputs 55 milliliters per hour and 6 hours in the respective fields. And then they click, calculate, and the feed rate function is invoked. The function checks which fields are filled. In this case, it's the rate, milliliters per hour, and duration, hour fields that contain the values. So if both inputs are populated, it performs the calculation rate times duration, 55 milliliters an hour times 6 hours, and then the answer pops up in a different color, which equals approximately 1.5 formula containers, if anyone is curious. So I turned the logic into a function. You fill in 2, it calculates the third, simple math, but let's look at how I built it. So this is a reset function. I am reaching into the DOM 3 separate times to grab each element by its ID, then manually clearing each one. The DOM isn't just where I display the data, it is my data. The input fields are my state. If I want to know what the user typed, I go ask the HTML element. If I want to clear everything, I go tell the HTML element. Using the DOM as your state is beginner behavior, but it worked for 71 lines. So now look at the event listeners. They're scattered across the file. I have to hunt for them. Which button does what? You have to read the whole file and match IDs. A lot is happening here for what little is actually going on. So there's 1, 2, and 3 scattered around. So the only thing I had going for me was the math, the calculation logic. It's clean and it's correct. The logic is exactly the same in the updated React version today. The math didn't change, but everything else around the math did. I love that math is such a universal language, but I did teach ESL math briefly, so I'm a little bit biased. So the data flows, the UI responds, and the app scales when you want to add features. Ship it. I feel like it sounds easy enough, but I sat on my web app for months before I actually put it out there. And then when I did, you saw the response. I mean, all of that data didn't happen right away, but I'll show you the community reacted and was so grateful. So the first time I gave this talk, someone actually approached me and said that I motivated them to ship their idea even before it was perfectly finished. And that really is my goal, because even when I applied, or when I started trying to get on the speaker circuit, I was like, no, I don't have a job yet. I do now. But I was like, I feel like all the boxes need to be checked for me to do the thing, but that is not true. Hence, ship it first, fix it later. So a JavaScript meetup group actually encouraged me to ship the web app, and they gave me my first bits of feedback. And it was scary because, like I said, I'll get into it in a minute, but it's a very close project for me. This is what it looked like the first time I put it out there. Like I said, it was basically a calculator. It was my baby. And I was too close to see that I created something for a traumatized mother in the middle of the night. We haven't talked about that part yet. We'll get there. But when people wanted more, when they wanted it to solve more problems, 71 lines of JavaScript wasn't enough anymore. So the first couple iterations were boot campy. I did get that feedback, and it was great. You need to take the good with the bad. The To Be community I shared it with, they didn't notice. For the time, it was helpful and it got the job done. So it is very important to get feedback, like I said, positive, negative, so you can work on it. The boot campy part I shared, so let me balance it out with some more positivity. So whenever I shared the web app on Facebook, these are a few screenshots of the comments that I received. that, just keep you motivated, keep you working. Fellow Vactoral parent here with a 3-year-old that has been solely tube fed for almost 3 years. We feed during day and night, so the calculations with that are always fun. Sarcasm. Great little tool you've created here. I always have to Google how to figure out when our dose changes. Thank you, this is great, this is brilliant, well done. It even calculates bolus feeds over 45 minutes, big one in my book. So helpful, thank you, bookmarked. And it's just, some of us are like, math isn't that hard, I don't understand. But, it depends on the community you're helping, and it depends on what other factors there are, what else they're juggling in their brain. Like maybe whatever you create can, alleviate that little piece of their brain and they can focus on something else. So problem solving has always been part of my personality, whether I realized it or not. But this was a problem on a larger scale. And, I feel like it's incredibly motivating. I thought it was a small scale problem just for my family. But, once you ship it, you realize, no, actually, this was, for more people. So like I said, feedback and iterate. Get your feedback and iterate constantly. The GIF is perfect. So I tried to make the less iterations, less personal, more enterprise, and this step just repeats itself over and over and over. Bless you. Okay, so what changed between now and then? Here's the thing. I had a full-time job in public education. I was teaching myself to code in my free time. I'm a mother of 3. There's just a lot going on in everyone's lives. AI exists and it's capable of too much, but a lot. So I took my 71 lines of JavaScript and I fed it into V0 and I said, React, please. But if I'm going to use AI to do something for me, I want to know what's going on under the hood. I don't know if it's like my math teacher side, but I like to see a student's work. So I reverse engineered it, and here are the main differences that I noticed. So that's actually the second iteration before. I even took all the photos of medical equipment to try to make it look more professional. But so the more enterprise version is that black and green one. All right, so in React, the state lives in JavaScript. The input fields just reflect what the state says. Change the state and the UI updates automatically, declarative rendering. It matters because when I wanted to add a calorie calculator that needed to know the current milliliter value, in JavaScript, I'd have to go get element by ID again. In React, I just use the variable. It's already there. State flows like water. With JavaScript, I had to wire things up separately. HTML over here, JavaScript over there, connect with get element by ID. It's like running cables across a room, and I'm a huge klutz. My husband calls me a tiny bull in a china shop. So I enjoyed in the React handler where everything lives right next to the button. You read the JSX and you know exactly what each button does. No treasure hunt through your files. And when your app has 4 tabs and 15 buttons, this matters a lot. So I had 3 functions that did the same thing to 3 different elements. Each one reached into the DOM and grabbed the element and manually set its color to a hex code. In the React version with Tailwind, the styling was conditional. There's a piece of state called output field that tracks which field was calculated. The Tailwind CSS classes change automatically based on that state. One pattern for all 3 fields. No duplication or hex codes hiding. Look at the JavaScript before. In order to reset the data, You have to find each element, clear its value, and clear its style. So 6 get element by ID, 6 manual resets. I'm giving the DOM step-by-step instructions like a recipe. Best scene, right? In the React reset, I just set each state variable back to its initial value. I don't touch the DOM at all. I don't clear any styles because React sees the state changes and re-renders everything automatically. The UI handles itself. So here's my favorite part, the math part. It's the same if-else chain, which is great for readability on 3 branches of basic arithmetic. It's like showing your work, which, like I said, as a former math teacher, you gotta show your work. The framework changes, the language got types, the styling system is different, but the core logic, the whole point of this app stayed the same. That's my domain logic. It's the part I understand because I've lived this particular problem. The React version does more around the calculation, tracks which field is in the output, logs analytics, counts the calories, but its core is the 3 if-else branches of basic math. People wanted more. They wanted more formula searches, feed logs, a BMI calculator, thank you, a BMI calculator, calorie calculations. But new features take more get element by ID. It takes more event listeners to track, more DOM manipulation, more global state to keep in sync. I needed components, state management, a way to break the app into pieces that could talk to each other. Because like I said, there's 4 tabs. You can see them up here, the calculator, the feed rate, based on BMI, the formulas, and a log, each its own component. They share state through props. The formula you select in the formula tab shows up in the calculator tab. The calculations show up in the log tab. Okay, so let's talk about the V0 AI for a second because it's a big part of this app's story. When I popped my original files in, it produced a working web app, components, type, styling, the whole shebang. It did a lot of things right, like component structure, TypeScript interfaces, Tailwind styling. I'd say it got me about 70% of the way, which is great, right? Use AI as a multiplier, not a replacement. If you use it, look at the results, reverse engineer that bad boy for a deeper understanding. I utilized Claude Code to help me do just that. And the remaining 30% were fixes like formula search. I actually built a local database of about 70 verified and enteral formulas. That's the official term for the formulas, and their nutritional information because it's faster. I use an OpenAI call to search for broader formulas that aren't listed in my database. But if it comes, if that's the formula that pops up, it comes with a warning because it's unverified. So if it's not in the database, OpenAI will run a search, and then the warning will pop up. We don't want to mess around with medical information. I also fixed the progressive web app aspect to where the calculator works offline, and the formula search will retain previously searched formulas, so even if you're offline, you can still get the caloric information. I had initially used Clerk for auth because it was just so simple and clean, but Supabase has streamlined auth integration with Vercel, and since that's where it was being hosted, it was just easier to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's where I had my formula database as well. User data, initially user data was only stored locally. So, if you're using the app on your phone, everything was saved, if you're using it on your computer, but you couldn't go between. So getting the auth figured out really helped our users a lot. Okay, here's a little demo. So the tube feed tracker in action. It went from being called the tube feed calculator to the tube feed tracker. The user is selecting a formula. Once they select it, the caloric information will get transferred over to the calculator. And then they can put in the same, well, we just want the same example from earlier, 55 milliliters an hour for 6 hours. How much do we need to put into the bag? 330, and then there are the calories at the bottom. And then if they want to check the log, it stays over there as well. So this is, I believe this is the most, no, it's not. This is not the most recent version, I'm sorry. Because additionally, I added a suggestion. I believe it was UT Health. They have a BMI calculator so that the user can see their recommended milliliters per hour, the feed rate. Okay, so like I said, it's a constant work in progress. I just talked to you about the 4th tab that wasn't in that example, but it's live, and it went live in its very early stages. People have been using it throughout the iterations. I'm still working on it because as of a few months ago, a competitor has entered the building, and they have really messed with my numbers. And I don't monetize off of it. I really was just making it to learn and to help, but I don't know, it kind of makes me want to compete a little bit. Last summer, I created a demo of the upgraded tube feed tracker, and I got such wonderful feedback from it, I decided to try and make more videos and try to apply to speak about the tube feed tracker. So throughout the journey, I've noticed that while I love problem solving, I also love interacting with people, which is odd. My husband says that I hate people. But I've enjoyed chatting with more of the Tubi community and teaching others about it. Surprise, surprise, former teacher. So I reflected on the journey for anyone in the same boat and created this talk, and hope that, while the steps seem simple enough, I feel like seeing it, hearing someone else's journey hopefully helps you or encourages you to, put your idea out there, whether it's done or not, and just keep working on it while it's live. Build in public, right? You're always told to build in public. So a little bit about why, you probably have figured some of it out, right? But a little bit about why or how I came about this problem. I'm totally kidding, sort of. So I am a mother of 3. I have a 9-year-old daughter and I have twin 6-year-old boys. Yes, I am 4'11 3/4 and I carried twin boys to their C-section date. And they were even over 5 pounds, which I was so proud because that means that they didn't have to go to the NICU, except one of them did have to go to the NICU. I know, yeah. So I'm a medical mom. So dramatic. If you have a medically complex person in your family or in your life, you know that your brain is constantly working. You are juggling daily medications, you're juggling symptoms, possible symptoms. What does that cough mean? You are dealing with doctor's appointments, insurance, the different machinery required at the different times of day, on top of your other daily things, like maybe you're parenting 2 other children. You have a full-time job in education. You're trying to transition into tech. So it's a lot. And so, like I said, sitting in that hospital room one night, I noticed that the nurses were struggling. Excuse me, I'm skipping ahead of myself. Let me warn you, I'm about to show you photos of my son on oxygen and breathing treatments, just in case, I don't want to alarm anyone. So this is Sebastian. The primary challenges Sebastian faces concern his respiratory system. He's seriously the happiest kid. You would never know that he struggles so much. But yeah, so as a side effect of his respiratory system, just you know, working harder than everyone else is, he burns too many calories just existing. So for a long time, he required extra nourishment at night, hence the G-tube, and in order to help him grow, because, you know, 4'11 and 3/4, not helping much. Along with problem solving, I made a lot of videos in the hospital. It was a creative outlet where I could express myself. It was a coping mechanism, and it helped a lot. This is one of 2 videos I'm going to share with you. Oh, sorry, I thought the audio was going to come through. Because he could not clear phlegm and mucus, he was often hospitalized due to respiratory issues. Bacterial association, esophageal atresia, tracheomalacia, laryngeal cleft, RADS, which is asthma. His hospital stays are getting shorter. They are fewer and farther between. We aren't out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. Okay, sorry, I thought the audio was going to come through, but it's probably best that it didn't. So Sebastian, I know, no, the song always is like, oh, why did I do this to myself? Sebastian is my youngest son. He's the youngest twin by just a minute. But he does, I swear he acts like the baby, because I guess maybe because he was in the NICU for a month when he was born, and then just intermittent hospital stays, he was away from home longer. So I feel like time-wise, he's definitely like the baby. But he's doing all right these days. He was born with a very rare birth condition called bacterial association. It's an acronym for 7 different conditions, and if you have at least 3 of them, you fall under that label. Sebastian was born with 3. On top of the obstacles that come with his particular set of bacterial-related challenges are other conditions that stack onto pre-existing conditions, which were kind of covered in that video. So we're basically just piling up the hospital bills. I mean, the medical needs. You laugh so you don't cry, right? So Sebastian has 3 of the 7 bacterial conditions, but the primary one that I will publicly discuss is esophageal atresia, which is when your trachea and your esophagus are fused together. For some reason, they couldn't identify any of that when he was in my I want to say stomach, but I know it's not stomach. I'm just nervous. But they couldn't identify it when he was in the womb. I think it's because he was behind his twin. Not sure. But so he required immediate surgery at birth. So esophageal atresia. And then we get a bunch of BOGO challenges with that one. More like buy one, get many. So he's got tracheomalacia, which is like a floppy trachea, and laryngeal cleft, which is a whole other terrifying story I'm not going to get into. It's how we discovered this. But it's like, it's when you have a cleft in your larynx. So he has to drink like thickened liquids, or it'll go straight into his lungs, and he'll aspirate, and you know, that leads to pneumonia and stuff. Asthma on top of it, because, you know, just keep them coming. And dysphagia, which is, like I said, that's connected to the laryngeal cleft. So this all led to failure to thrive, which led to the G-tube for extra calories. So he does eat by mouth. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you ready? Here we go.
January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. These are the 12 months of the year. Sorry, it was a little delayed. I just was like, the audio for that one was too perfect. So in 2020 and 2021, for very obvious reasons, we lived under a rock. Sebastian probably averaged 2 to 3 hospital stays those years. 2022, Leela, my oldest daughter, she started kindergarten. I think we know where this is going, right? The jokes are accurate. Kids are gross, and they carry all the germs. She brought everything home to her brothers. 2023 wasn't great, but Sebastian's stays were dropping in frequency and length. So that video, I don't know, there were like 9 months of him in the hospital in that video. Not full months, but like stays. That was when she started kindergarten. In 24, he had 2 hospital stays. And 2025, which is the year he started kindergarten, no hospital stays. Our first year without hospital stays. So I know, as my friend Naz would say, please clap. So while the complications from Sebastian's esophageal atresia are what landed him in the hospital, his G-tube is what led me to build the web app that we discussed, and solve a problem in the medical community that you saw the statistics that gets used around the world daily. He only receives his tube feeds at night because he loves food. He can eat by mouth. He eats fine. It's just the liquids that have to be thickened. But I noticed the night shift nurses at the hospital because, like I said, he only eats at night and he only tube feed eats at night. And they were struggling to figure out his feed rate. And that's because, you know, if we're in the PICU, the pediatric ICU, or if we're on a regular floor, nurses have multiple patients and they have a lot on their mind, and you know, they're like, oh, this person's tube fed, but it's not the regular tube fed. He only eats at night, so you have to make time for. You need to make sure that he's had his dinner, that he's had time to digest his dinner, and then you need to figure out the hours before he's going to eat breakfast so that he's actually hungry for breakfast. It's a lot to process when you have a lot of patients, when you have a dietitian telling you one thing, when you have doctors saying another thing, and then the parents in the room who are like, no, that's not the way we do it at home. Sorry, yes, I've done that. But it's a lot of information. So when I shared the web app with the nurses, I had a nurse that I befriended. I shared it with her and she was very excited. And so I'm like, cool, this works for parents, this works for patients, this works for nurses. And yeah, so just a side note before ending everything, thank you nurses. Like seriously, every hospital stay, we would bring Starbucks gift cards and thank you cards because it's such a tough job. They have so much information coming to them all at once, and we just appreciated them so much. And also respiratory therapists, because I swear I became an expert on the respiratory system. Whenever we'd go to the ER, they'd be like, oh, do you work in the medical field too? I'm like, no. I just got really close with the respiratory therapists because that's what Sebastian was in for. So just to recap, these were the 6 steps that I shared during the talk before I introduced you to Sebastian. Identify a problem, whether it's your own, someone else's, create a solution, and ship it. Ship the MVP, make it perfect along the way, perfect. And then constantly get feedback. Put it in the communities that you're trying to serve, show it to your friends. If you're in, any sort of Discord community, just share it. And then of course, every time you share it and get feedback, iterate, and then share it again. And it's just a constant process. It doesn't need to be perfect when you put it out there. And it would be funnier with the music. Okay, so I am a huge supporter of the tech community. I'm so grateful that I get to be here and meet more members of different parts of the tech community. So that was just my daughter being a whiz on a bicycle at age 3 or 4, and symbolized like me with communities, and then the boys trying to figure out a scooter at age 4 because they're pandemic babies. You know, that was me without communities. So all that to say is thank you so much for being here, coming to my talk. Thank you so much for Stir Trek, for having me. I am grateful for the 100 Devs community, the Dallas software developers community, Let's Get Technical, the Tubi community, and of course the Torque community. If you want to connect with me, I also put Torque's information on there. If you want to join our Discord, we're a friendly and goofy group, and I wouldn't be here without their support. Yeah, so thank you.